Mr. Speaker, he knows he can't defend his broken promises on policing. And let's talk about the other broken promises led by the Deputy Prime Minister on tuition fees. We know the majority of universities are proposing to charge £9,000 per year. Can the Prime Minister tell us how many of them he expects will have their proposed fees cut by the Office for Fair Access?
That decision will depend on the Office of Fair Access. But the honourable gentleman talks about broken promises. The fact is, it was the last government that introduced tuition fees and top-up fees. But we have, from the leader of the Labour Party, a new doctrine. We have a new doctrine about his attitude towards the last government, which he announced in an interview with the Sun newspaper. He said this: "I'm not going to defend what happened in the past just because I happen to have been in the last government." Presumably, we shouldn't listen to him now just because he happens to be the leader of the opposition.
Ed Miliband.
Mr. Speaker, once again, he doesn't answer the question. We know from the Office for Fair Access. We know from the Office for Fair Access that they are not going to cut the fees of the universities. The Assistant Director said at the weekend, "We are not a fee pricing regulator." That is not our role. We wouldn't say to an institution we would only allow a fee of X or Y. So won't the Prime Minister admit that on top of a broken promise not to raise tuition fees and a broken promise that £9,000 will be the exception, he's now breaking another promise on capping excessive fees?
The fact is, we're going to have to wait till July until the access regulator. But let me make this point to the honourable gentleman: degrees haven't suddenly started to cost £7,000, £8,000 or £9,000. Degrees have always cost that much. The question is, who's going to pay for them? We say successful graduates should pay for them, earning over £21,000, rather than taxpayers, many of whom don't go to university. But I have to say to the honourable gentleman, he made a promise. He made a promise that he would have a fully costed alternative to our fees programme by the end of the last year. Where is it? Another broken promise.
Ed Miliband.
It's what we've come to expect from this Prime Minister, Mr. Speaker. Hazy on the facts and unable to give a straight answer to a straight question. I know how the Energy Secretary must have felt at Cabinet yesterday, Mr. Speaker. And remember what they said a year ago: two parties working together in the national interest. Now what do we have? Two parties threatening to sue each other in their own interest. That's what's changed in the last year. And what the public are saying is, on police cuts, on tuition fees, on the NHS, this is not what we voted for. Having broken so many of their promises a year ago, how can the public believe anything they're saying at these elections tomorrow?
Even the jokes were bad this week. The fact is, what this coalition government has done over the last year is frozen council tax, capped immigration, lifted 1 million people out of income tax, introduced a pupil premium, linked the pension back to earnings, cut corporation tax, and set up more academies in 10 months than the last government set up in 10 years. And with council elections tomorrow, people should remember the mess that Labour left us in and resolve themselves. Don't let Labour do to your council what they did to our country.